Welcome back to the Ref Show with Kevin Davies joining us this week alongside Keith Hackett. And really, we've got a little bit, pardon the pun, Kevin, we've got a bit of elbow room here in this second half to talk about Jose Mourinho. By God, there's a lot to talk about with this character. By common consent, he's pretty good for English football, isn't he? Because he always leaves us something to discuss.
He went on a bit of a rant, didn't he? Was it 7 minutes to one question, wasn't he? You know, the pressure's clearly mounting on him, and you can understand it as well. The start to the season they've had, what, the fifth from bottom or something. It's unthinkable, isn't it? So I think he just needs to concentrate on his players, the performances. They're not at it. I think from the start of the season, there's been 5, 6 of their key players who were nowhere near the standard they were last season. They've spent money to reinforce and strengthen. It's just staggering to see where they are and the start they've had, really. Yeah.
It is. It's surely no coincidence that when he's up against it, the statements seem to get more and more bizarre that he makes. I mean, he's too intelligent a man, Keith, surely, to actually believe what he says, isn't he?
I think he's a very clever man. And I think that, you know, you can't take the record away from him. He's an outstanding manager. Yeah. And Chelsea are having an horrendous start to the season, defensively. You know, the linchpin of that team has been Lampard and Terry in defence terms. They've always had a buoyant set of forwards to play with. But I think that he's lost 1 or 2 players, he's let 1 or 2 players go. People like Peter Cech, who I think, you know, they give stability within the dressing room, surely, and within the training ground. And there's some familiar faces that have gone that might have gelled and held things together.
What do you make of it psychologically, the way that he manages? Would you do that? I mean, you were hoping maybe one day to be a manager. How would you play it?
I think he's the expert, isn't he, trying to take the heat and the pressure off of his players. He's not come out and really criticised his players, has he? No. I mean, regardless of was it a penalty, wasn't with Falcao, they lost 3-1 to Southampton at home. They've lost to Palace at home, losing the way to Porto, where they've never lost, I don't think, in the Champions League. So he's trying to take the heat off them, and obviously he's come out and said that they're fragile, the confidence is low. So if he starts to publicly to nail them and undress them, really, then the confidence will go down. So I think that's all he's doing, he's protecting his players, and he's always been known for doing that. The players love playing under him, but at the moment you have to question, is there something wrong behind the scenes? Is something going on in the dressing room? Is there a problem with the manager, maybe John Tate? There's something not quite right. It can't just be the performances, they're not playing, there's something not quite right for me.
And if there is something not quite right, he's screening that off. He's diverting the media.
Of course, yeah, you have to admire that because you keep things in-house. If there are issues, they have to sort it out between them. If there's someone who's come in and upsetting the balance a little bit, there's clearly something wrong. He said,
you know, if I lose the dressing room, that's the time I'll be under pressure. But until such time, so he's insisting he hasn't and screening that off. What about that comment though? The referees are afraid to give decisions for Chelsea. 1 or 2 people looked at that and thought the FA might act on that. What do you think the FA should kind of act on that, or do you think that managers are being unfairly suppressed from comments?
Well, I think there's no doubt, certainly in my day, you would, on a Saturday evening, get numbers of them saying, I'm going to phone Keith Hackett in the morning because the referees haven't done so well on the day. I do think, under the guise of respect and various other things from the FA and probably arrangements with the Premier League, there is a suppressed element in what they say compared to the past. That's maybe good for refereeing. Is it good for the game? You know, Mourinho is a fairly complex guy. As I say, you can't question his ability to manage. He's going through a difficult patch. I think it was probably all in the public gaze came when he had the real spat with the doctor. And even I thought, well, just a minute, the referees called the medics on. That's their job. They've got to get on there, and they've got to get on quickly because the player may have a severe injury. But the other side of Mourinho, which I think the public don't see, is I can remember our the ref pundit, Mark Elsie, you know, weeks into his cancer treatment, receiving texts from players which were remarkable. I remember him ringing up, being pleased as punch that Wayne Rooney had sent him a text wishing him all the best. He took that really personally, and that particular day, it boosted Mark. And then he decided, you know, getting well and getting better, they'd have this charity event for Christie's, where the managers turned up, Ferguson, Sam Allardyce, who looked after Mark for a number of years. He trained at Bolton, and that was beneficial to Mark. But Mourinho had sent a video message to Mark, which was quite remarkable. It was personal. It hit home to everybody in the audience that witnessed that video. And he ended by saying, you know, I think you're the #1 referee in England at that particular time. And Mark was a good referee. But I also want you to come to one of our games. He was then managing overseas. And, you know, you hear that thing. But some months afterwards, Mark was still on that, you know, getting better, getting through the nightmare of cancer treatment. Mark and Michelle were invited and did go to watch a football match. And I thought that is a different side of it.
People don't see. Have you seen that side? Have you had any dealings with Jose?
Not up front and personally, obviously just playing against him. I mean, people that have played under him, the players generally love him, don't they? And he creates that environment where it's very much us. And I think when it's all going well, that's fantastic. You see that, but also when, like now, it's not going so well, you expect, having created that environment, that the players to stick with him. And it looks like, I mean, John Terry's come out openly and said he's backing him, he's the best. If anybody can get him out of this situation, he's the man. So he seems like a nice guy. Obviously, straight after a game, sometimes it's not the best time for managers to come out when there's all that frustration, the pressure. He feels like everything's, I think, kind of going against him. Decisions from referees. They're the first people that you criticise, aren't they, the referees? Deflection away again.
I'm going to phone Keith Hackett about that in the morning.
Yeah. But obviously, he just feels like he's getting punished. The decisions aren't going. The mistakes that they're making individually is going against them. And he has to sort that out. He has to sort out his team and let the referees do their job, surely.
Made the wider point when we were chatting before we came on air about how aware of match officials have to be about managers being under pressure, as they have been lately, and they will continue to be when a team of match officials goes to a game. What kind of thinking do they have to have about that?
I think, in a way, you need the fourth official to be a bit of a sponge, to accept and take a bit of criticism and not overreact. So you need a fairly neutral guy in that fourth official role, but also one that's aware that anything could spark a problem. And that could be the manager against the manager. We've seen that on numerous occasions. And therefore, I think it's managing it and managing things from a distance. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's back to refereeing. And refereeing is about getting the decisions right. If they get the decisions right, the comments are not made, the frustration isn't built. With Jose, he's a passionate guy. And we've clashed. Referees have had problems with him in relation to the tactics that he's employed in the past. You know, the surrounding of referees. It's gone away at the moment, but it was part of the makeup of Chelsea. Blocking players at corner kicks.
What do you mean by that? Just explain that a little bit more depth, this blocking that you noticed.
Well, this is when you actually see the attacking team prepared at a corner kick or the dropping ball entering from a free kick. And you had a period where defenders from Chelsea would absolutely go for the player, almost like skittles.
When the ball's in the air.
When the ball's in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when the offences take place in the penalty area, not when it's there. It's invariably, other than handball, that's when referees, you say to referees, don't look at the ball, because it's never committed offence ever.
You look at crowded penalty areas, and you look at strikers sometimes as well, Kevin, yeah?
It's so hard for them, though, the amount of bodies.
It was hard for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, there can be,
you were often
16, 18 players in there. They can't spot everything, but again, get themselves in good positions, they can try and spot.
Well, I mean, I had several meetings with Sam Allardyce when Kevin was at Bolton. Kevin was the most fouled player and seen as the player that was most fouled. And that, to some degree, was the tactics of Bolton, playing the ball to Kevin, so his involvement in the game was always at a high level, either heading off or all those. Therefore, he's in play.
Your record was something like you committed the most fouls, but you were also the most fouled player, I think.
I'm competitive, aren't I?
Well, it was the nature of the dropping ball into the zone where Kevin was.
Never complained about it.
Never a dull moment. It's been brilliant having you on the show. Thanks, Kevin, with Keith as well. Thank you to you for watching. And let it be said as well, we'll perhaps follow up on this, and hopefully we can next week. It's been a much better weekend as well, following the recent criticism for assistant referees. So well done on that. Any points or queries you'd like to make, we're here for you at youaretheref.com, and we'll see you next week. Bye.